Hello, my name is Jonathan Harris from Worldwide Camera Exchange. Nikon F3, absolutely fantastic manual focus film-based camera, introduced roughly 1980, available in a number of versions, the F3, F3HP, F3T, F3P. There's also an F3 autofocus. I'm going to run through now very quickly the features and also talk about what to look out for if you're buying secondhand. Okay, so very quickly the versions. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because there's a lot of resource online. You can certainly look this up very, very easily. Fundamentally, there are two main versions you'll find. There's the F3 and there's the F3 HP. This is the HP. You'll see it's got a little HP on the front. The high eye point viewfinder has a slightly larger eyepiece, and you can see the whole screen with your eye a little bit further away. So if you wear glasses, the HP version is definitely worth looking at. They also make a Nikon F3P, which was the so-called professional version, which had additional weather sealing. There was the F3T, the titanium version, which was a little bit lighter with titanium top and titanium base. And there was the F3 AF, which was actually the first Nikon autofocus camera. Didn't work particularly well, but it was still quite interesting nonetheless. Okay, so let's quickly look at the camera itself. Solidly made, very solidly made professional spec camera, as I said in the intro, introduced in 1980. The prism on the top is removable on these cameras, so that comes off just by pulling these two little switches there and there backwards to reveal the focusing screen inside. The focusing screen just lifts out and is obviously replaceable. There are a number of heads available for the camera. There's a waist level finder, there's an action finder, which is like a very, very large finder, which can be used with goggles or with crash helmet. So it's a very, very flexible system. Also on the top, clearly you have the shutter speed dial, wind on crank. Just here is the multiple exposure switch. That's the main on-off switch just there. And just to between the shutter release and the prism, the little switch there is the self timer. There's a lock to take you from automatic through to manual, aperture priority automatic. So with this camera, if you want it automatic, you select the aperture, the camera does the shutter speed. Over on this side, you have these two rails. Now, because on this particular prism, there's no hot shoe, you can buy a special adapter or a special flash gun, which actually slides onto these two rails. It was a good idea, very, very solid mounting, but it was dropped after this model with the F4. They went back to the standard hot shoe on the top. A good bit of innovation, but it didn't really last the test of time. ASA setting on the back. Just looking at the front, lens release here, flash connection there. On this side, we have on the bottom here, if I can get my nail into it, that's actually the mechanical release. Electronically controlled shutter, but it does have a mechanical speed, and if your batteries go flat on you, you can still fire the shutter just using the mechanical release there. This feature here, very, very useful, the mirror lockup. You push in the depth of field preview. That's the depth of field preview. You push that in and pull this lever around, and I should have done that while taking the lens off. If I take the lens off, you will see, push the button in, pull the lever around, mirror goes up. Very good, very, very good feature. Obviously, using slow speeds on a tripod, always lock the mirror up if you can. I should also have said there is a standard cable release socket in the shutter release, so long exposures, cable release, mirror lockup, job done. Okay, so let's just have a quick look at the base. Fairly standard layout. You've got a couple of motor drive connections there and there with the batteries. That, of course, is just the film rewind. So to actually get into the back, there's a lever here you pull across the lever, pull up the rewind crank, back pops open, you can then load the film. Okay, so these are getting on a bit. I mean, the youngest one you're going to find is going to be 35, 40 years old. Brilliant cameras, but given their age, you do need to check them very carefully if you're going to buy one. So what do you need to look out for? Fundamentally, look at three things. Look at the cosmetics, look at the mechanics, and just look at the the electronics. Cosmetics, number one, very much common sense. These were professional spec cameras. These are professional spec cameras. So in the past, they've had a hard life in many cases. So it's important just to ascertain how well it's been looked after. Have a careful look on the corners, see how much brass is coming through on the corners. On this one, you'll see there's a little bit, but that's quite unusual. You would normally see quite a lot of brass coming through around the strap lug there, around the strap lug there. Also look at the corners here, just see how much brass is coming through. More importantly, carefully check the prism. These do get knocked and dented very easily. A few signs of use, a bit of brassing, that's not an issue at all, but I would avoid cameras that have been heavily knocked or heavily dropped. There are some prisms, some little mirrors in the prism. If the prism gets knocked, the mirrors can come out of alignment, which means when you look through the camera, you've got two LCD panels which give you the viewfinder information. Those come out of alignment. So when you're buying these, do also just look through and look at the displays and make sure the displays are reading okay, because particularly with the F3, that is one of their weaknesses. So yeah, check out the cosmetics. Make sure no nasty dents anywhere. If you're happy with that, then I'll just go on and just quickly just check the mechanics. So stick it on the slow speed, stick it on 1 second or 2 seconds. It actually goes all the way up to 8 seconds on the time speeds here. And just make sure you can hear the shutter opening and closing as it should. It can be a good idea just to take the lens off, so you can just see the mirrors going up, nothing sticking. Sometimes with these, you do see the mirror stick. Now, that may not be the end of the world. I don't know if you can see the foam strip just there. The light baffling on these cameras does rot. It does on all cameras. It needs to be replaced every 8 or 10 years. If it doesn't, it becomes very sticky. Sometimes the mirror sticks because it actually latches on to that foam strip, which, because it's deteriorated, has become very sticky. So if you don't see the mirror returning, just have a careful look to see if it's actually sticking to that foam strip. What you'll see is a sort of gungy black line actually on the mirror as well. If you see that sticking, that mirror sticking isn't actually a mechanical problem. What it is, it's just sticking onto the light baffling or the foam in this case that needs to be replaced. So just fire the shutter through, make sure that's working. Have a look through the viewfinder. Just make sure, as I said, all the readouts are working correctly. The LCD panels do sometimes bleed. So you see nasty dark grey sort of curtains developing around the outside, and sometimes get so bad you can't even read the display. So do watch out for that. And as I said, if it's been knocked, the mirroring comes out of alignment inside, so you won't actually see the display at all. So just look through and make sure you can read everything. Can be a good idea, just stick it on automatic and just make sure the speeds are just cover the body cavity up. You can hear the speed changing. That would suggest that's working fine. Have a look in the back. Just make sure there's no damage to the shutter. Again, professionally used cameras, you do often see damage to the shutters. That has to be clean. If somebody's put a finger through it or through a nasty creases in the shutter, just avoid it. So once you're satisfied that mechanically it's okay, I would just check out the optics and the electronics. Have a closer look through the viewfinder. You can take it off like that and just look through that way and look through that way, and just to make sure there's no misting or no fungus inside. Make sure it's nice and clean inside. Also worth checking the screen to make sure that's clean, but remember that is interchangeable, so marks there aren't the end of the world. And just have a look in here, make sure the mirror is nice and clean. I was talking about the light baffling or the foam there. If you want to check the light baffling, which you really should do, just have a look at the light baffling around here and around here. And also look along here and here. If the light baffling there is beginning to disintegrate, then you often find there are sort of sticky bits of foam all down here. If you rub your finger across there, it'll be black, just where the light baffling is beginning to disintegrate. It's not a big job to do, but it's a horribly messy and fiddly job to do. So if it is beginning to disintegrate, it can be done, not the end of the world, but do allow £60 to £80 to have it done, because it is quite a fiddly job. A lot of people do it themselves, that's fine, but it's very, very time intensive. And you do have to make sure you use the right type of foam, because if the foam is too dense or too thick, when you do what I've just done there, when you close the back, if the foam is of the wrong type, it won't actually close properly. And sometimes when you open them, they don't spring open, although they can take time to bed in once all that has been replaced. Okay, so you've looked at the mechanics, you've checked the cosmetics out, you've looked at the optics and the electronics. So I say with the electronics, that really is just the timing on the shutter. It's always a good idea to put a film through. Just put a film through, try it on the high speeds, try it on the low speeds. Just make sure it's focusing where it should be. Quite unusual to have a focusing issue on these because they are very robust cameras and they are very reliable cameras. So once you've gone through those checks, if you're happy with everything, then yeah, go for it. You've probably got a good, reliable camera. I hope that's been useful. If you have any comments, please stick them in the box below. Otherwise, please subscribe and like. I hope to see you again soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.